If you like the video, please consider supporting James Corp on Patreon. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our review of Twilight 2000 on Test Chamber. I'm a bit under my text at the moment. Hang on, give me a sec. I'm just going to raise my chair a little bit. There we go. That's better. I'm in the centre now. Yeah, we're gonna be doing the stages and reviewing the game that we just played for the past 7 weeks. Hopefully we'll sort out an interview for next week with the creator or one of the creators of Twilight 2000 or lead designer. Thomas or whatever his name is, Thomas
Armstrong.
Yeah. So we'll be hopefully speaking to him next week, maybe at some point. If not, it'll be the week after. So it's going to be a bit of a spanner in the works for like how I wanted it to be laid out. But for YouTube purposes, it probably won't matter. But for like Anchor, it's going to probably mess up Anchor a bit. But yeah, it's best place to come for a complete like overview of a game where you get to see an entire process of us making characters and playing the game for a while with experience and other such mechanics that you probably wouldn't get in a one shot. But yeah, today's the review. Probably be an hour tops, maybe a little bit longer. I'd say an hour to an hour and a half. It won't be a massively long stream. It will be kind of brief, but it depends on if people got interesting shit to talk about in regards to the game itself. I mean, the mechanics and the system and shit, because that's what we're reviewing today. Is the We're not putting Nathan on a fucking review. Nathan, you're shit at this or whatever. We're not doing that. It's all it's supposed to be just talking about the system, how we thought about it, and so on and so forth. And then we'll go for the final question, which is like, what was your favourite moment? If you've got one favourite moment, you might have a selection of favourites. But yeah, that is what we're doing today. Do I need to do anything? Am I really loud? No, good. So, yeah, we're going to go around the table, get people to introduce themselves, as we did before, and then we'll crack on with it and do the review. I've got my list of questions that I need to quickly pull up again because I've hidden them under everything. So we'll start with Nathan for once because he's always last.
For once. Yeah, hi, I'm Nathan Clark. I'm Godless Polecat, anywhere else online. Yeah, I was the GM for this session, the referee. Illustrious Potentate, Grand Poobah. Yeah.
I just realised my bot's not logged in, so I've just done a command to get,
Yeah, it's exclamation. Usually it's Nathan and exclamation point at the end, but,
No, it's the other way around. It's exclamation point and then Nathan.
Well, I mean, usually when people type it, it's like, Nathan, yay!
Yeah, no one types it.
Anywho.
Thank you. Douglas?
Hi, I'm Douglas. I'm Broken Shepherd on the Discord, Broke Shep on Twitter. And I had fun playing Erwin Eckhart, our Canadian Spec Forces NCO, who unexpectedly survived this. So we'll look forward to breaking down how things went and what we learned.
Thank you. I'm James, or James Corp. And yeah, I host this channel. This is my little brainchild, I think. Is that the right word? Yeah, this is my little brainchild.
That's fair.
It's your baby.
It's actually a sort of adapting from our previous game thing that we did, which was Kick Drive. So it's a similar idea to that, to sort of get reviews out.
We're not gonna. There's a couple rules. The first 2 rules of Chambers of Roleplay is we don't talk about Kick Drive.
Oh, we do, because eventually that might come back.
Don't include me because I don't want to kill it again.
Well, once I get big enough, once I have enough followers and enough people interested in playing, it probably won't be a problem. But yeah, at the moment it's finding players.
the bucket drive.
Tom, or Tall Tom, who might be
Yes.
tall or might not be tall.
It's the mysteries
never
of
know.
the digital life. So I am allegedly Tall Tom, and I was playing Blake Pops Parsons, who got out of Poland, but we never know if he actually got back to finally hold his daughter Julie, and who by the end had definitely killed as many Americans as they had the enemy. So that's me.
Thank you. And last but not least, Trey.
Hello there. I'm Trey. I played Cowboy. He started out as being Flagpole. That was his CIA call sign. Central Intelligence Officer assigned to the mission, helping get Orchid out of Poland. And then he turned Cowboy when he took over a Russian APC by repainting the interior with one of the Russians. I think, I don't know, but maybe my kill score is about 50-50 with Americans and Russians.
Who was lobbing the explosive at the end of our
Cowboy.
last section? Yeah, that was you definitely caught up on your kill count there.
Yeah.
Actually, technically, I was just driving away from Americans. So I suppose.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
your
yeah.
conscience is
Technically.
clear, Pops.
Yeah.
Like the David Bowie song, I'm afraid of Americans.
I was just driving the car.
Yeah. It's not responsible for what people throw out the back of it.
So let's start with the
Cool.
first question. And we're going to do, I think I'm going to go one way and then go back the other way. So this is for everyone. All right. What one thing did you like about the system and why? We'll start with Nathan.
I really enjoyed the combat rules and the use of the ammo dice. It's been getting I think the ammo dice mechanic is getting like a mixed bag. But with from the forums and stuff from the Facebook group and everything, people have been like, some people like it, some people don't. And I can see why, but I think it's the closest. It's one of the closest ways you can simulate like throwing a bunch of lead at somebody in a game and tracking ammo and stuff without getting. I mean, the game's crunchy to begin with, and there's other systems you could use, but I think that one's a little bit more elegant. It's just a little bit more. I mean, yeah, sometimes you end up like it seems like you just wasted a bunch of ammo. You didn't hit shit. It's like in reality you wouldn't actually, but I think it worked out more times than it didn't, because I think it was only once where it seemed ridiculous, where it was like Tom fired like fucking 23 rounds down a hallway and didn't hit anybody. But not like I haven't seen that happen in real life, but in the game you'd want it to happen a little bit different. But I think it worked out more than it worked out better than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be kind of a hokey mechanic, but it wasn't. It was a solid way to implement it. And the more ammo you guys spent, the more detrimental it was to your target. So I felt it was.
Aren't machine guns like really hard to like emulate in RPGs? Yeah.
And this is the thing that RPGs always get wrong, is that when you fire a machine gun, they think the more bullets you fire, the more recoil you have, therefore the less accurate you are. That is not the case. You can tuck a machine gun in and because you have like a belt of ammo or just a 5-round burst with a machine gun. If for having personal experience, you can tuck it in and you can be very accurate with a machine gun. Machine guns aren't complete wastes of ammo. Machine guns are very dangerous, very effective weapons of war. And there's like this thing where people's like, you fire full auto, you don't hit anything. Yeah, if you fire full auto like an imbecile or without even aiming, yes. But you can aim full auto fire just like you can aim single shot fire. And with a machine gun, you just walk your rounds onto target. Because you see you're firing so many of them that you see where they're going. You just walk them on a target, and machine gun shred stuff.
I mean,
when people talk about automatic fire being inaccurate, they're talking about hip firing a submachine gun as you run kind of thing. And yes, you get barrel climb and everything. Your first 2 rounds might be on target and the rest are just spray and pray. Yeah. But that's very different from having a machine gun on a bipod or a fixed firing position.
It might also be a balance issue, right, for the actual game, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
but I
part of the
mean-
balance with machine guns comes in the consumption of ammo, because as we discovered in the last session when we were sort of engaging with the economy of this post-apocalypse, bullets are money and bullets are life. And we started out this game, and this was intentional on Nathan's part to start us out with a shit ton of ammunition, knowing that we were going to need to spend it. But anyone who's surviving in this Twilight 2000 world for any length of time, that like firing off a belt or a box of ammunition is a huge commitment, because you have no guarantee of getting another. So yeah, and I think that balance comes in over time in the campaign environment.
All right, thank you, Nathan. What about you, Douglas? What one thing did you like about the system and why?
So I'd agree the combat system was terrific, but I wanted to touch on something we didn't get a chance to do on screen, but I did do off screen only because I expected we were going to lose a couple of people, and that's the pathway character generation,
Right.
the life path. That's something that GDW has across their games, and Travelers the other one that people talk about for a life path system. And it was interesting to see characters rather than just saying, okay, I'm going to be this template or archetype or class, and I'll assign my stats this way and we're good to go. And I think it took us, because we were kind of learning the system, getting a lot of background about the conflict and stuff. It took us a while in our first session to do that, but for people who've learned a little about the system, you can be up and running in 10 minutes. It's pretty quick. The life path takes longer, but I like the idea that you're not always building a character to plan. Life happens. Things happen in their lives, in their opportunities to be exposed to different things that aren't always directly in your control. And none of us choose when this war starts. So wherever you are when the war starts is where you are, and whatever you've learned or whatever equipment you've collected or whatever role you've taken is where you are when the world goes to shit, and how do you respond to that? I thought that was really interesting, and in a longer campaign, I'd be very interested to have my players go through that character generation process.
I've tried min-maxing in real life. It lasted a day. That's insufficient willpower.
Cool. As for me, what part? Well, I didn't really get to heal anyone properly, right? I didn't really get a chance to do it. I didn't really have to heal anyone, which I was surprised about. I thought I thought there would be more people dying on our side. I mean, that's not really a mechanic, though, is it?
I did to die.
That was our superior tactics.
I did like the whole, if you get shot at, and you get, even if it doesn't penetrate, you then have to do what was the skill check called?
Coolness
Under fire.
Yeah, I like the fact, and if you found it, you just sort of get into cover as quickly as you possibly can, and just get out of line of fire as quickly as you can, so that you're not being shot at anymore. Because I guess that's quite a scary thing to happen, right? If you get shot at. I don't know. I've never been shot at in my life, so I don't know.
Yeah, there's you have no problem getting down in a gunfight. You have no problem getting low. I had a sergeant who, one of my first NCOs that was training us, and we were going through the motions, just taking a knee while we're doing a battle drill. He's explaining where we're supposed to move and how we're supposed to fight. And there's another squad that's farther down the grass, and they're actually running and jumping and hitting the ground and crawling and doing. He's making them do everything. And I was yeah, we don't have to. That's great. We don't have to do all that. We don't have to, simulate we're in actual combat. We're just learning the motions first. And my sergeant, he goes to me and he's don't worry about it. He's you're not gonna have a problem hugging the fucking earth if you get shot at. He's I don't need you guys crawling around in the dirt right now. He's you'll do that on your own. If anything, I'm gonna have to run over and kick you to get your ass up and move. Mm-hmm. He's you won't have a problem doing that. So
the mechanics really work well for simulating that suppression, though, and it makes sense, particularly with the ammo dice, the impact of sustained fire on opposition. It made it feel very real.
But yeah, I just thought it worked all quite well together. Really, I thought it was completely different to Alien, and it was completely different to like Mutant Year Zero, the way like the dice mechanics worked, because in those games it's more of a dice pool system rather than like rolling 2 dice and that's it. I like the fact that you used like D12s or like other dice, which is obviously like sort of taking stuff from Forbidden Lands, right? That the idea of Forbidden Lands using better dice than just a D6, I guess, which helps because there's more chance of succeeding on like higher dice than there is on smaller dice. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Tom?
So I like role playing, can anybody tell? And I like moral quandaries. So I like the way that that's so completely baked in. I know Alien had something very similar, but I really like systems where experience is awarded to you for playing your moral code or playing your big dream in a way that causes you or the group problems. And I'm very interested in the mechanics around the cold-blooded murder leading to empathy. Well, cold-blooded killing somebody leading to empathy dropping. So that whole goal that James, you had about leaving with your humanity kind of baked into the system is that question about like, what these people are going to be like once they've done what they have to do to get out of here. So that's, that really worked for me.
Didn't really come up for me. I kept killing people.
Yeah, there's wait to my favorite moment. Yeah, there's a very real thing in game design that is whatever your game, like your players are going to do or characters are going to do, what gets them experience.
Mm-hmm.
So like just like real life
in Dungeons and Dragons, it's how you get experiences by killing monsters. So you're going to kill that game's going to be about killing monsters because that's what you need in order to advance. Not to pick on Dungeons and Dragons, but in this game, it's I thought it was cool that, like you said, Tom, the game is players are going to do what gets them experience points. So
reward players for the behavior you want to see. That works from players, dogs, and all in that area. That's my day job half the time. Making organizations compensation structures reflect the values they claim to have. Oh, I thought it was keeping dogs. Never mind.
That too.
What about you, Trey? What one thing did you like about the system and why?
Yeah, it's hard not mentioning something that's already been said. I do like the whole, it doesn't take a lot of damage to send you down. Guns are dangerous. Then you can take a crit. And then I would say maybe I really like the setting because that's also a part. It's not mechanical, but it's part of the rules. It's part of the book. And you buy it, just to talk about the physical properties, you buy this box set and you really get a very nice map on Poland on one side and Sweden on the other. The encounter cards, like now we saw how Nathan used them. He told us how he used them, but I also have the deck and they're really interesting. I think less than a third, about a fourth of them are actually combat encounters. Like I sorted them out into piles at one point. Like this is definitely going to lead to combat. This could lead to combat. This here is really only if the players want to make it go there, and this pile, which is easily a third, had nothing to do like that. You meet I think there's 4 cards where you meet hunters sitting around a fire, but they have like one, they're like very protective of their prey, of what they got, and one they're they're inviting the players in, and then there are 2 others where like I won't spoil if people are going to play the game, but there's like 4 different modus, you could say, where you're meeting just hunters sitting at a fire. But then there's 52 or 54 random encounters, and they're like themed so that if you're on the road, you get road related encounters, or you keep flipping. If you're in a forest, you keep flipping until you find a forest encounter. And I think that tool and that mechanic of creating the story by generating random encounters, so it's not a interruption of the narrative we're doing. It's actually adding to and creating the narrative. I really enjoy that part about the game and the box set.
Well, that's something that they did in Mutant Year Zero, right? They did encounter cards, like for what they did. Like, I think there was 2 different decks. I think there was one which was like, if you was in your arc, I think that's what they're called. If you're in your arc, you get a different set of encounters to if you're out on the field. Now, I do have a problem with Mutant Year Zero, but we're not reviewing that. So we're not going here.
The deck that he's talking about here for Twilight is he's talking about the different suits. So like spades are combat encounters.
Right.
Clubs are like possible. It could be combat or it couldn't be, or it's like run-ins with nature. And then like hearts is run-ins with people and resources and stuff. And diamonds for the most part is like areas like a crater that's radioactive, or you know what I mean? Like a gas station that's like occupied by bandits that want to trade, or they want to, it's possible,
Yeah, so a fourth is pretty close. I didn't actually notice that the colors were themed like that. I just read them and made my own sorting, but I can tell it's pretty close to this.
I flipped, I think before like 2 weeks before game started, I flipped like 11 cards out of the deck and drew all the random encounters beforehand, just to see how I could line it all up. But I ended up doing it on stream anyway, just to see how it would go, would flow in the middle of gameplay. But I'll get to that in a little bit.
For sure.
Cool. Thank you. Right, with Trey again. Trey, what one thing did you not like about the system and why?
I think there is almost the same thing I said I liked. I don't like. I think there's something in the damage system, which you often encounter when you use damage reduction as a system, where we had 2 armor for this mission, and that also means we didn't really get hurt. I had another run through where we had 1 armor and we did get hurt, but like no armor, you probably die in the first gunfight. 2 armor and a concrete block to hide behind, and we were walking tanks. And it's fine that a game I think Nathan can attest to this. Cover is really, really, really important. When people start shooting bullets at a very, very high speed at you, you want to find something very hard to hide behind. But so that's fine to emphasize that. But it's not balanced. It's like 2 body armor and a block of concrete, and most NPCs, they can't hurt you because they can make those 4 successes or damage with successes is pretty good. It's not just average. 2 or 3 is average, and then 4 is good. They need to go up and do 5 or 6 damage for in order to do something. And I think there is a misbalance in the game that way, and not actually from Nathan picking that armor for us, but simply like the game designers. The damage reduction, there's always a tipping point.
Yeah, I get something to add to that too that might change your mind. So keep in mind that the pace that you guys took care of combat scenarios and stuff, and where you were fighting and how I designed it, because like most of the combat in this game is going to be like in the woods or out in the open. You're not going to be like behind concrete walls and fighting within cities unless you are. And I gave you guys so much stuff so that you could handle that big, huge 6 map encounter basically any way you wanted to. And you guys chose the snail's pace of shooting and covering and just decided to bang it out. You guys could have done a lot of things. You could have thrown smoke. One guy covers or suppresses while everyone moves. and then break contact, and then throw smoke again if you get shot at again, and break. There's many things you could have done, and you guys chose. I mean, rightly so. There's no wrong answer, but you guys are just like, oh, nope, I'm going to hunker and bang it out with these guys because I have better equipment and I have more ammo, and therefore the math of combat will favor me, which it did.
And we did not feel invulnerable. So taking a cautious approach to things was not going to run out in the open.
Yeah, and if I'd have put a 14.5 millimeter machine gun on that BTR like it's supposed to have, yeah, you can kiss cover and it wouldn't have mattered. But it didn't make much sense for a frontline vehicle to have that kind of thing like on the outskirts of a city when it was needed. Yeah.
It was in for repairs that week.
I was at the front line.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I've ever fully got my head around bullets as a system. I think I was listening to a podcast recently where they're talking about when you learn a game on VTT, you learn it kind of differently because it does so much for you. And I think bullets were one of the places where if I'd started from scratch and was rolling physical die, I think I would have understood it really quickly. But I think it didn't quite land for me. And I suppose slightly the opposite of what James was saying, because I've played Vaesen and I've played Alien. That's my main Free League experience. So the jump to having 2 dice that jumped up in size, I kind of missed the familiarity that comes from the other Free League games and saying, oh, it felt less familiar on a basic level, and I was going, oh, how much more likely does that make it? Whereas I know that an extra dice and I'm trying to roll 6 on it is kind of clear. Not a huge problem. I'm sure that would have gone away after time, but I guess it's an interesting design choice given that the rest of the games have such a similar kind of core and then other things added to it. There. Not a biggie.
I know, like I said, I know in Forbidden Lands that they use different dice but to represent magic items and shit, right? So if you get a magic item,
dice.
Is it? Yeah, they're called yeah. And it goes up to D12 and like you get, if you roll a 10, you get like 2 successes as opposed to 1 success and shit. I don't know. I've not played Forbidden Lands. I don't know if it's dice pool or not a dice pool system. You've been reading it, haven't you, Nathan?
Yeah, and I'm probably not gonna run it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not gonna. I don't know. We'll get to that. I'm gonna get to that in
cool teasers.
What I don't like about the system.
Yeah. What did I not like about the system? Oh shit. I didn't even thought about it.
Great.
I know, it's good, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I didn't really get. I mean, I took some specializations to do to medicine and shit, and these bastards didn't get shot, so I didn't really get a chance to like save someone from
sucking chest wound.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to like stabilize wounds or anything. I mean, that's not your fault or the system's fault, but it'd be nice to see it play out. So I
tried my best. I got shot twice in the chest. I tried.
Next time, get shot in the arm. Yeah.
Well, I think we've established that we all let you down by hiding behind concrete walls. Like we know now that was the mistake we made.
But you're right, it did leave your character a bit hamstrung because combat you ended up being pretty effective at. Hunting you were amazing at somehow.
I think that was more luck. I think. Than,
absolutely.
Than anything else.
Generally
like your language ability had a lot of airtime.
Yeah.
Like your ability to talk to the Polish people ended up being really important several times. But yeah,
definitely
in terms of healing.
Yeah, the Grand Poobah will need to always be, and this is the case in any role-playing game, is making sure that everyone's having an opportunity to engage and do meaningful things in their role. If you've got a combat-focused character in a scenario that's low combat, what are other ways that they can be involved and that sort of thing. So, you kind of got stuck being the babysitter for most of it, and you still had some definite cool character moments, but I can imagine your hands felt tied a bit.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, it would be nice to have seen it happen. I like that's why I was going to try and save that Russian soldier, just so right at the start, just to see if I could see it. But then Trey's character was like, "No, you can't use any of your medicine on him."
And there was me thinking you were doing a moral decision. Just going, I've got this med pack, I want to use it.
So Trey didn't say that. I told you that he was like, it was fatal, like he was dying.
Oh.
And then you, as a player, decided to put a bullet in his head, not give him some morphine and ease his passing, not bend down and hold his hand.
Hang on, the bullet
and, so he doesn't die alone. No, you yanked your pistol and sent him to the next world. That was
well,
your
I made
decision.
sure he went quick instead of long and suffering. So that was a degree of humanity.
Look, maybe I'm a vet. Maybe I went to veterinary school, right?
They shoot horses, don't they?
It's a great scenario title. Some degree of humanity.
But what about you, Douglas? What didn't you like about the system and why?
So I think the strengths in terms of being able to have random encounters and random tables and results can also hamstring the keeper, the GM a bit, if they feel bound by them. So I think the keeper needs to be comfortable making the call on whether it's what happens or what the encounter is or what the outcome of scrounging. So you send someone out for 6 hours looking for whatever the material is out of camp. There are tables to generate all the results of that, and the tables are in part so that you don't have to go into detail each time role playing through 6 hours of searching through ruins or villages or whatever. So the tables are there to speed things up, but I think there will be times when parties are looking for particular things, whether it's fuel or ammunition or something like that, that can become more of a focus where the GM can say, I know I've got this table, and if you don't find what you're looking for, maybe there's some other things you come across and you can use the table to generate those. But it's not a pass-fail state of, I know you're looking for this thing and you're spending 6 hours, a shift or 2 shifts looking for this thing. We're going to let the dice determine what you find. And that thing that you're looking for might be one result out of 50 results on the table. So if you really need that thing, the scrounge table is not going to be your friend. So having being able to use give and take in the situation to say, okay, we'll let you focus on this activity, but if there's any other stuff you come across, we can generate that randomly. That being able to decide when and where to engage the random elements in the game will give the GM more control and give the players a little more agency than strictly random, I think.
Cool.
That was me.
Nathan?
Yeah, I do not like the rules for camping, eating, drinking, all that bookkeeping and the random encounters. I felt that it's not that I don't like them. It's that I felt the distinct change of pace from when you guys left the city and then went into the like traveling type, you know what I mean? Like rules for the game. We actually had to roll camp, track fuel, track food, track water. I think that if we had started, it's just kind of it's really grindy, and it got in the way of the particular story I was trying to tell. You know what I mean, or that I was telling. That's how I felt. It's just not like, I don't know if it's not really the type of game that I want to run. It's I wouldn't mind, I'd play in it, and it's like I said, it's not it simulates post-apocalyptic, like, a post-apocalyptic game where you're wandering around or traveling around, but you know what I mean? It's just, for me, it was just it stopped the flow of play. Like we had to like, okay, let's pull. Okay, we failed our camping roll. All right, let's pull a camping mishap, roll a camping mishap. Okay, what is, it's this encounter. Okay, how do it felt like a lot of rolling and just figuring out what was going on. And then this, you know what I mean? And then it felt like it was getting in the way and it slowed the game pace down.
A lot more mechanical than immersive.
Yeah, it was more procedural.
Yeah.
And there's games like that and those are cool, but for me it's like I don't really care if you guys fail a camping roll or whatever, you know what I mean? It just,
if you wanted to spring a surprise on us, you were going to regardless.
Exactly. It was too noodly to, and if your system is, because I started you guys with so much ammo and so much stuff that if you started with like 1 or 2 magazines and then you run into this roadblock or whatever, but even then it feels like a procedurally and random table generated experience.
Right.
And it's just not kind of the games. I like a solid story versus procedure generated and then try to shoehorn it in to the story. Because there was like another story arc that you guys were going to explore had you not taken 3 sessions to do like the one combat encounter. I just didn't know. I just didn't know how long that was going to take. But so I had like content planned out in case, you guys are like, we call the helicopter back and just get on board and fly out. Like crap, they rolled a critical hit on their skin. You know what I mean? Like in case of random stuff. So I had more content to play, but it just seemed like when we started pulling encounter cards and making camping rolls and stuff, it was like, this is the game.
But I think once you get, like, as a GM and probably the players as well, once we get more used to the system, like if you're doing it for a longer period of time, it probably just becomes second nature, right? It wouldn't slow the game down that much, right?
Camp would go a lot faster with a little more experience.
I mean, you could even, to counter that off, you could even pre-roll some of the encounters before the game starts, right? You could,
I did all that. Like, so,
okay.
But I wanted to do it on stream so we could see the process in. So what I would do, my recommendation to counter that would be to just pre-roll camp mishaps, pre-roll that stuff. So when they fail one, you just look at the next one on the list. And it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And pre-roll encounters so that you're like, okay, it's the next one on the list. It's this one. Boom. But then that's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah.
There is supplemental resource for the GM. I don't think, like, same as with the table results, is they're great to give you a little variety, and so that you're discovering the story as the players are as well. It's like, what happened? There's a bunch of renegade Americans who've mined the bridge and are shooting anybody who comes close. That's cool, and it required us to pivot and reposition along the way. It might not have been the core spine of the narrative arc that you were planning to tell, Nathan, but it was still an interesting encounter, and it forced us to discover that, hey, our vehicle is amphibious. So there, I think there can be a value for the GM as well on having some of that surprise, but ultimately the GM's got control over what they do and don't present. So I don't think, although this provides us with a lot of random tools and procedurally generated stuff, I think that's a supplement rather than having to be the spine of the game.
Right, next question, Nathan. Did you find the mechanics supported the story, or did it get in the way?
Post-apocalyptic role-playing in a World War III that never was, that's what the game simulates. It does simulate that. It just hindered my particular style of GMing, that's all. But it absolutely nails the economy and the economy, the rules, the desperation of it all, and the struggle. It's definitely, that's what it simulates. It plays like The Road, the RPG.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Douglas?
I thought the combat was very tactical without being incredibly rules intensive. So it wasn't difficult in any given situation to sort of quickly get an idea of what your chances were and and what the outcome would be, because it was a large field of battle with a lot of moving parts. It took us hours to grind through that, but I think we got faster with our decisions as we went along, and got to do some really cool stuff. So combat wise, it felt like a streamlined version of Advanced Squad Leader. It's a combat world. These are mostly going to be combat soldiers or people who've picked up combat skills surviving in the post-apocalypse. So it makes sense that be a core focus of the game. I thought it did that well. I think it does capture the survival horror resource management side of things for sure. I was sweating, gas and food, like in the context of the character and where the character's mindset and the decisions they make and the priorities they choose. Those things were real stresses. This was a stressful sort of mini campaign to go through, because we were cut off from all of our supports, and everyone around us, no matter what uniform they wore, was a threat, including the guys we were supposed to meet. So it was, I thought it did a good job mechanically of creating that sense of anxiety and tension throughout the different aspects of the game.
Oh shit, it's me again. Yeah, I did, because usually I get really bored with combat, especially if it takes like a couple of sessions
8 hours
to get through. Yeah, but this, it wasn't, because there was lull moments, there were high stress moments and shit, and it was like it was definitely like an up and down sort of feeling to the actual like mechanics, the way it was working, and I really enjoyed it. I actually I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, but obviously the character knew what he was doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but yeah, I definitely really enjoyed the whole like us like sneaking around the sides, trying not to engage with people, but getting spotted and engaged, and like moving during the daylight hours rather than moving at night, which would have probably saved us a bit of put us at an advantage. But I had to follow my the command, whatever it's called, command structure. But yeah, it definitely, I felt the system did sort of support the setting itself. Pretty much, like I said, the combat I thought worked wonders in the game. Obviously, a lot of it was probably handled mostly by the VTT, right? A lot of it was like done that way. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely had a good time playing Twilight 2000, except the last session, which was a bit weird, but that's because of real life events.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, similarly, it does feel like it was designed with great care, to do one thing really, really well. I found combat very tense. I kind of liked bombing around the countryside, like also felt tense. Like it never, even we're in a APC bombing around, still feeling very vulnerable. And actually there was real tension of just watching the fuel gauge going down, going, this is great. Nobody can touch us right now, but sooner or later, we're just going to have a lump of metal that isn't moving anywhere. And then we're going to be in real trouble. I've already talked about the way that like XP for Buddy and Moral Code and Big Dream feeds into the particular kind of stories you'd expect to come from this world of compromise.
Well, that whole side didn't really come into play. I never sort of got any of them.
I think if we'd played for longer, they would have come out more and more. But just knowing in the back of my head, like they didn't always happen, but those moments of as a player, I was really looking for the potential conflicts, and ready to pounce on them. And I like systems that have push mechanics, because I really like it when terrible things happen to a character because they gambled, as opposed to just your first roll sucked. That whole are you going to push it? Because if you do push it and it goes really badly, that's on you. Helps make for a really tense system. Those are all my thoughts.
Thank you. Trey?
Just first, I want to agree on that last part. I really like the push mechanic. It works well here. It works well in Forbidden Lands. That it's up to the player. Like, you get a second chance, but it might cost you. It probably very likely will cost you. I think it does post-apocalyptic in World War III that never was very well. And I don't not crazy about combat, have 1 or 2 a year in my campaigns. But I have been thinking about playing Forbidden Lands, Twilight 2000, because I think maybe a 2-session combat, that is definitely too much for me. But you can smaller combats can actually be resolved pretty fast in the system. It could seem like it's long, but it's not. It's actually pretty short and intense, also because once those significant dice rolls shots they fall, like, people die or have to retreat or something. So it's and I think the whole scrounging system, and I kind of like the whole roaming through the land and setting up camp game as well. I mean, there is a lot of similarities between this and Forbidden Lands, but as such, if you want like the role-playing game, or you want a darker, grittier Fallout, then yeah, definitely I think this one it's very well designed for that.
I mean, something I didn't mention, I do actually find post-apocalyptic games quite hard to run. Like, as a games master, I find them quite, because obviously, like, you got different currency and shit like that in those sort of games. I just find them a little harder to run than, say, a fantasy game or a modern game or a science fiction game or science fantasy. I find it it's a balancing act, right, to figure out how much you should give someone and how much you shouldn't give someone. Does that make any sense to anyone else? That's what I do find. Is that I don't know how it does it in this game. I'm not sure, but I'm sure at some point I'll figure it out and have a look at it more in depth or something.
Related sidebar, not exactly that point, but just realizing that this is the first role-playing game I've ever played in which there is no supernatural or sci-fi element, and how rare that is. And as you alluded to, during these current times, like, how uncomfortable that was at lots of points, in which, like, maybe playing it 6 months ago would have been a very different experience. But I'd often wondered whether or not I need something magic or supernatural or weird in some way to keep me engaged. And actually, I really didn't need any other elements. Like, let's say it was a bit more on the nose. Like, I wouldn't play this for escapism right now, I guess is what I'm saying. But that in my gaming, I don't need to be restricted to where's the supernatural monster. It was a really interesting discovery as a player and a games master.
Yeah,
that is true. I don't know many games which don't have some sort of like that supernatural or fantasy whatever element to it. Is there any game that I have that doesn't? Tales from the Loop maybe would be the closest game that I've got which doesn't have any. But then again, that does have some
sci-fi.
It's got hardcore sci-fi. Yeah.
So going back a day, like decades, like games like Top Secret, even then there was like a bit of pulpy spy actiony stuff. So you were suspending disbelief a bit there. But yeah, there were very few games that I can think of that are this grounded in the world that we live in and what could actually happen in it and how people might react. And that was sobering for sure, but it clearly demonstrated that there's no lack of tension and drama and potential conflict and difficult choices that still made for excellent character moments and excellent arcs and tough decisions that would make for a compelling role-playing game, and at the same time make for a really interesting lesson on why give peace a chance is a very important message, because when things go pear-shaped, they really go pear-shaped.
Trey, what was your favourite moment from the game that we just played? Did you have any particular favourite moment or moments?
Do you need a while to think about this? Do you want to put you under pressure?
Yeah. Can I get away with saying two?
Of course you can.
Sure, because I think we all know one of them.
Yeah. We all know one of them. So the first one is actually the way I touched upon this earlier, how Nathan drew an encounter card, and like it was randomly generated. He looked at it and he tied it into the story. So was it NATO or American forces I met on the road? And he was like, oh yeah, okay, so that's Gable coming back. That makes sense. And yeah.
Sorry, not only was it it says you meet NATO forces, but they're like, he's like unreasonable. He's like, fall in, I outrank you, fall in, you're into, he's.
So that was on the card?
Yeah, that's why I was like, that's Gavel 6, like telling you guys what to do now because the command structure's falling apart. He outranks all of you, so fall in. And I hope there was a tension there, especially with the CIA guy, because he's like, I'm not taking the lip off the civilian. Like, I don't give a shit where that's why that was that tension there. Was he was supposed to be keep being unreasonable till you guys are like, we're bailing, we're out, which is exactly what you guys did.
So yeah, and of course there was this moment where some Russians had a big fucking car and I took it from them like a cowboy. Cool. That was fun too. Had to roll away from the tracks first and actually making that mobility roll, not being squashed, and then just taking those guys out and getting us a sweet ride.
That was pure baller.
Yeah, 100%. Because that thing was so annoying. As someone who wasted a grenade on blowing one of its tires up.
I honestly thought you guys were going to find the Jeep. I didn't think you'd take the BTR. I wasn't opposed to it.
It had the space.
I wasn't opposed to it, but I figured a dude that was inside. I figured a dude that was inside with an AK that could just fire full auto on anybody that ran up to the side of it would have been fine. But Trey figured out a way to empty his mag into that hole and kill that dude. So I was like, well, I guess they're getting the BTR. As soon as he did that, as soon as he shot the gunner, I was like, they're going to get this thing.
Yeah.
I was like, better figure out how much fuel this thing has.
Allegedly took Tom. What about you? What was your favourite moments?
Which obviously not as awesome as mine, but go on.
No, absolutely. These are not moments of awesomeness. These are... So for me, I didn't read all of the background stuff on the setting. I'm like, I got the kind of headline. And I was definitely playing my character with less awareness than I had. But the moments when the complexity of the world were revealed, so the moment, and they were always the most tense moments as well. So the moment when the Polish looters turned on us, because my character absolutely assuming that the people who he'd in his head turned up to save their country could ever be ungrateful for that, and that people could be hungry enough to kind of like food is all that matters. So that moment, especially like having gone from the camp where we had soup on tap, and then that in session 0, just emptying the soup container quietly in the background during the briefing, to going, oh yeah, people in this world are hungry enough that they will absolutely go up against people who are massively better armed than them for some cans of food.
I was about to say, we're seeing it in real life, though, if you watch the news.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was the moment when the world really came to life for me. And then similarly at the bridge, when Cowboy was getting shot at, and the realization that it was Americans shooting at us, and we were going, oh, it's fine, we'll just tell them we're Americans. And them going, we don't fucking get asshats. And us going, oh, the world has got, in 5 days, has got much more complicated. And so leading on to definitely the high point for me, which we've just talked about, is the most tense moment in the game when I was really scared for the NPCs that we had with us, who are the most important thing to Blake, is protecting those kids in the van. The scariest moment is when we meet our allies and going, oh wow, yeah, everything is flipped. Once all the chains of command crumble, it is everybody for themselves, and that really is terrifying. That's me.
Cool.
Glad I could make it seem that way.
Oh, it's so good, so good.
Yeah. I mean, that was a favourite moment. What Tom said, with the oh god, without like, who is it called, Nathan? Who were they called?
Gavel 6.
Gavel 2-6.
Yeah, Gavel 6. Yeah, when we met Gavel 6, and they were just being absolute fucking arseholes. And like, I was like, fucking hell! Like 2 days. Was it 2 days, or was it like it was a couple of days?
2 days.
And they turned fucking savage. They turned into savages.
Well,
Yeah, but
they were hungry, and they got a call on the radio that said, "You're on your own. Like, we're not coming to get you. We're not." It's like, and if you guys didn't have people in tow, if you didn't have a mission, and if you guys were just strolling along, and then there's you run into another group of soldiers that's like, not hostile. They're like, hey, we should join forces. You guys might have handled it very differently.
I would have fallen right in with them until they started robbing people, and then that would have been a conversation. But
yeah.
But yeah, that was a favourite moment. Another favourite moment is all the back and forth between myself and Tom. The constant like bickering that we had, and the digging.
Enjoyed that mightily.
Which is always good to have in a role play, like some like comradeship.
Positive tension.
And one of my other favourite moments is, who went hunting and found a rabbit? Was that you, Douglas?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you found one fucking rabbit, and then I went hunting and came back with a boar.
Goddamn moose.
Poor moose. I mean, you let a partridge go, going, I don't need you. I've got this massive moose.
Yeah, I've got a moose I got to go kill.
Yeah, recon was my nemesis. I love the fact that I spent that entire time, all of those sessions, accumulating experience points so that I could upgrade my recon from C to B. And the first thing I do is roll 2 1s.
The dice.
It's dice for you.
You can't push it. You can't.
No, you got nothing. You just eat it.
There's no food down here by the riverbank. Shit.
Right, Douglas, what about you?
I had a good and tense time throughout all of it. Even just crossing a roadway under fire, popping smoke grenades, getting shot at and freezing up was all very tense and felt very real. The confrontation between Cowboy and Stevens was very real, because Eckhart could see the escalation and the risk happening of antagonizing someone who outnumbers us 3 to 1 and who wants the vehicle that we've got and doesn't give two fucks about the civilians we've got in tow. Like, I could just see it going so badly, so quickly, that I was very tense, and I was in Cowboy's face too. I was like, you need to go away and you need to shut the fuck up, because we need to be able to get out of this alive. And that feeling, that tension was there from that point on till we got into that village. And I knew if we I felt that if we tried talking it through, or trying to get members of his squad to remember what their goals were or any of that there was a good chance, because again, we have the vehicle that they want, and he still, he outranks us and outnumbers us and outguns us. It was like, this can go south so fast. And it was my favorite moment in the game, and I absolutely hated it. So credit to Nathan for this. Was that the only pathway I felt gave us a good chance of getting out of this intact with our mission attack, because again, Eckhart's still very mission focused, even in the absence of a chain of command, was not to engage in all the things that I as a player would normally be doing, to try and negotiate or maneuver or surprise or whatever it was to save those people. Was to say our best chance to get out of this is to walk away right now, not say anything about it, just get in the vehicle and go before they have a chance to process what we're doing. And so I appreciate that everyone picked up enough on those signals to go along with it without rocking the boat, because that whole situation, we could have spent our whole last session in that village in a firefight with these 12 Americans and a couple of poor bedraggled Polish villagers. I hated it. I hated that I made that decision, but it's the decision he would have made in the moment.
Yeah. And it was great that Blake was not that was at the driving wheel, because if he'd been there with his machine gun when they started slapping innocent Polish girls,
right,
things would have gone differently. So the fact that he was blissfully unaware of all of that is just, we're going, great.
Oh yeah, I wanted to get revenge on him. I mean, we did get revenge, but unfortunately, at what cost did we get our revenge? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel bad for all those kids' families.
What about you, Nate?
I can't believe you guys left from that. I can't believe
we
you
escaped
guys.
That? Not
escaped. Not escaped.
The village?
The village. Yeah, I can't believe. Yeah, it was great. It was great. You were just like, peace, deuces. Sorry, folks, you're on your own.
Yeah, we feel bad for them, but
we got shit to do. Blake's like, we're driving. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Gotta stay on mission.
Like, well, just load up those supplies. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Quietly.
There's no easy way out of it.
I saw it coming, which is why it was position the vehicle in this place in this way, because I knew we were going to have to beat a hasty retreat if things went south.
Yeah.
So I've got two favorite moments. Doc shooting the guy in the grocery store.
Yeah.
That was unexpected. Yeah, I didn't know how that was gonna. Yeah, Doc Holliday there. And the fact that the random hit chart put like all 6 shots in his legs, I thought was cool. Like Doc just like moves the shotgun barrel and like yanks his M9 just far enough to get out of the holster, and then just starts unloading on the guy at close range, and it all goes into his legs. So, and then he jumps over the cash register counter and then slides to the end of the aisle, and the guy's just laying there on the floor with like 6 bullets in his legs. Like
emerald spray.
Yeah, I thought it was.
It was very action movie.
Yeah, I thought it was good, and
I think that was my last kill. I think.
Yeah, and then Wynn getting shot and just sitting down and quitting. That was like my favorite, because like he gets shot in the chest, and that was the last of his like stress. So he just like gets into cover, sits down, just like, what am I doing? Like really? This is So I thought that was. I've seen a Peshmerga mercenary in Iraq get shot in the head in his K-pot, in his helmet, and he was okay. And I've seen him just sat down and take a minute.
Yeah.
He got clipped. I'm like, you just got shot in the head. And he sits down and he's just like,
why am I here?
He takes about 10 minutes. I'm like, I would go over to him. Me and a couple of guys went over to him like, bro, you just got shot in the head. Take your helmet off. We gotta check your head or whatever. And he takes his helmet off, gives it to us. And I'm like, well, it didn't penetrate. You're okay. And then you probably got to take a couple minutes, man. Make sure your head's okay. Your neck's all right, And then he was just sitting there contemplating the situation that he was in. And then about 10 minutes later, he's like, just, starts fighting again. I'm like, man, the Peshmerga are like tough dudes.
Isn't there a lot of
choice, right? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
isn't there a lot of kinetic energy like transferred to you when?
Yeah, but it didn't hit square on.
So it
Like
bounced.
it hits and ricocheted, like it put a groove in his helmet along the side of it. Yeah. Sometimes bullets penetrate helmets, but then follow the shape of the helmet once they're inside. That happens sometimes because then a guy will have a wicked scar on the side of their head, or when bullets hit
Which
things,
is better than
they do weird stuff.
3 or so.
Yeah.
That's a conscious design choice they made in the game, though, not to give you a mechanism for relieving stress outside of rest and sleep. That they're saying you're going to build up stress, and it's going to get to the point where someone around you is going to have to smack you out of it, or you're going to have to get out of the situation you're in, or someone's going to have to get you out of the situation you're in before you can re-engage. Because when we were talking about the healing and recovery and all those rules, there isn't a mechanism in there for lowering stress outside of a shift of sleep or a shift of rest. And so if you're in a firefight and you hit that point where you max out on stress, you're hooped unless somebody can shake you out of it. And that was really interesting for me. It was a tough moment. I was like, no, there's got to be something we can do to lower the, no, you got to eat it. So having
the command roll.
Yeah,
you get to
so
recover
important.
however many successes on the command roll is how many you get, but that doesn't bring you up to full.
No, but it's still somebody else has to do that. You can't prevent that by saying, like, I went into that combat with 3 of my 4 stress boxes ticked. And there wasn't anything I could do to lower that stress before that engagement. And so I went in vulnerable and paid the price. So that's a design choice. I think that is engineered to create these moments of tension and to force that reliance on the people around you.
Cool. Anyone else got anything to add?
No, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like the system. I like the game. It was good. I
like the choice Nathan made in showing it, because we talked about Tom in particular talked about Blake's growing awareness of the world around him and how his reality had shifted. But because that was a choice that Nathan made to start us in that structured environment where we had those resources and had that support, only to pull it out from under us halfway through. And just be able to see that contrast and feel what that would mean for people who go through that transition. And, in other campaigns in this environment, that may have already happened. You might be starting your players out in a position where that happened 6 months ago, and this is where you've been surviving, and this is what you've got left on you, and you're starting from a position where you're resource poor and where there isn't any command and control structure, and literally the only people you can rely on are the people around you.
Yeah, and that was by I'm glad that worked out, because I wanted you guys to feel like you were part of a military unit in a military. I wanted you to feel that first, and then,
and we probably spent a little too much time in sort of reveling in that, or swimming in it a bit up top, but it made that transition that much more effective.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I wanted you guys to have that feeling like this is what it is to be supported, go on a mission, and you guys were doing, you guys did really, really well. I thought it was,
And then when we got the call saying you're on your own, we were going, there was a real contrast of like all that weight that we had behind us is now.
And discovered we're not 20 kilometers out, we're 400 kilometers out.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Well, if no one's got anything else to say,
I'd play it again, but not this year.
Yeah. I look forward to the world reaching a point where I feel that this would be really fun to play again.
Right, an academic exercise, not a visceral one.
Yeah, 100%.
That's right. You heard it here first. We're gonna postpone Wrath and Glory to play next week to play Diplomacy. Just kidding.
I think Wrath and Glory will be fine because it's so different, right? It's not,
No, I didn't mean that. I just meant when I tried Diplomacy instead of
Diplomacy would be good. What the world needs now.
I think. Well, maybe one thing to add is that as like you said, Nathan, that it seemed like the game is more centered around the whole moving through and making camp all the time, and you like to structure your story differently and not do the hex crawl thing. And just to people watching this, seeing like the game can be played if a lot of tactical, like it's not a mill sim game in that sense. Well, it does have a very strong military combat core, but it does have all these other things that the game is about, like the big map and moving through and planning out what to do and survival. Like there's a huge survival. You can get like most of those cards and encounter cards. You meet sick people and you get tuberculosis and cholera and it's like the game is bleak, right? And it's just there's a good chance you get a disease and you die. It's a huge part of the game. If you like that, of course, and you can also pull out the very, I think, quite strong milsim core and use it for something else. But I do see the similarities to Forbidden Lands. I don't know, you said something about maybe not playing that anyways, because that is very procedural, moving through the map and making camp and camp roles. Very much built up on that too.
I would say if anyone is a fan of things like The Walking Dead and wanted that kind of experience, it would not be difficult to replace the nuclear and radioactive elements of this game world, which we didn't actually touch on in this play. We weren't counting milligrams and going through blast zones, but I think the bones of what you've got here, both on the combat side and on the survival horror side, would be a very easy port or reskin to do like a zombie survival game.
Yeah.
Nathan, you had your hand up for a second.
Yeah, there was an encounter. You guys were going to encounter a crater of a nuke strike. Basically, it's a radioactive crater, but you never. I sped things along because it was like last session. Yeah. That's one of the things in there. There's also this other. I had this whole other plot with like friendly Russian forces.
Right.
Because in the game, there's like in the lore of the game, there's a faction. There's rumored, and this is maybe something that comes out in later products. But in the actual factions, there's like a Spetsnaz group that is like kind of pro-Russia, but they don't want to. They're all for taking Russian equipment and Russian military and taking it home and fixing Russia. And then there's a U.S. Special Forces unit that is all about like there's some friendly forces in the U.S. that think we should be loading everything up, taking it back because America fell apart. Like America's fallen apart just as bad as Europe. So like they're all like, we should just spin this thing around, go back to the States and start rebuilding the world is what we need to do now, not still trying to win this stupid war. And you guys were going to encounter that basically that like SF with like, and there was like a shady CIA guy that was going to fool you into doing something. And then you're going to realize that you shouldn't have done that, but now you get to fix it. But we never got to it.
We should keep playing.
we never got to it.
You did say, because there was that, and maybe this is what it was touching on. We had that the Soviet soldier, we'd crossed the river and we're heading up towards the highway to head west. Yeah. And he was flagging us down saying, you need ammo, you need food or something like that. I thought they were saying we need ammo, we need food. But in any event, our mission was about us getting west as fast as possible. So I just said, keep driving. What was he about?
Yeah. He was, so they were, I should have alluded it differently, but they were part of that plot. They could have been assistants. So like that's what he was willing to trade food. He had a bunch of food. He was willing to trade food for ammo because they were like hiking back to Russia. They're trying to figure out how to they'd have bought the BTR off you as well. Like we want to go back home, but like we're going to need bullets to pay for shit to get back home. So if you just stopped to trade, that was a random encounter. That's the first random encounter card I pulled like 2 weeks before the game started was Cash. It's called Cash is King. It's a squad of Soviet soldiers walking on a road, is willing to trade. They're not hostile and willing to trade.
Food, gas, lodging. No, fair. Because it would have been a different encounter if we were in civilian vehicles, or if we were on foot rather than in a Soviet APC.
That was also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we didn't know that they were just flagging down anybody. It looked like they were flagging us down as another Soviet element.
It still would have worked though, because had you have got hemmed up with the US guy, had you have got hemmed up with the with Gavel's Captain Stevens, like it's that Russian squad that would have bailed you out. Because for one thing, like in the game, I wanted to emphasize this in the game, that it's not just Russians are bad, America's and NATO's good.
For sure.
That's not, it's like there's good and bad on both sides, and there's both sides of the war, you know, both sides of there's people on both sides that want to stop the conflict.
Yeah.
And it works out also story-wise that you guys happen to be in a BTR, they think you're Russian. So they're like, where was that BTR going? Well, let's go follow it. So had you have had a gunfight with Captain Stevens and maybe not come out of it or been in a jam,
right?
The Russians,
you had a little
Russian squad can show up and get you out of bounds, or get you so you all don't die or whatever. Can and say, hey, listen, you know, we saw what you did for these civilians, and you know what I mean. You know, we thought you were Russian, that's why we're tracking you down to help. But you know, we saw that you were trying to help these civilians, so we helped you. You know, just to show that there's this dichotomy. Cool. Plus, it's a you know, get the players out of jail free. So it ended up working, but I needed to at least introduce them to be like, who's this Russian squad that Nathan just threw in, and then all of a sudden it's like, that's that guy that you waved down on the road.
Yeah,
you know, and it all kind of makes sense story wise.
And the Americans who were shooting at us at the bridge.
That was a hostile encounter that had it was a hostile American unit.
Just pure brigands.
Yeah, they've turned to banditry, and I just thought it was funny to stick them there on that bridge. Like, let's use this bottleneck, and they were totally going to destroy your BTR.
Yeah.
So I was like, this will be fun if they don't have a vehicle, because they can't just drive away from Gavel 6, which I knew was coming. They can't just drive away from threats. And then you guys are like, no, screw that, we're not going to drive that way. I'm like, okay, cool.
We're going to turn out.
We're going to get stuck in the mud 5 miles upriver.
Yeah, well, which was fine. It was great.
That was me trying to convince Douglas not to go into the clear trap that they had laid.
Yeah.
And then wins like ridiculoso level of perception. Like Sherlock Holmes is like, there's an IED right there. I'm like, God, fucking damn it, man. This dude spots everything. Like, all it's gonna do is bust your vehicle. Shit.
No. But yeah, advancing under fire didn't make sense. So.
And that's when we discovered it was an amphibious vehicle.
Changed things, changed our goals, you know.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I like how you guys chose not to engage. That was cool. You know. I think it all worked out story-wise, you know.
Yeah. And then when we had to engage, we engaged for full effect.
Like any combat encounter, you know.
Yeah, you don't go half-assed.
Yeah, you smash with the largest hammer you have. You spend tax money till the problem goes away. The another thing I want to just quickly point out, so that you guys know this, that like that whole encounter with the 6 maps I had put together, that was only like 10 minutes of real time that would have took you to suss all that out. I mean, it seemed like forever, but you guys were shooting and scooting pretty quick, and then like the BTR charges, and then, you know what I mean, Trey's character gets a hold of it. Like, it was all pretty, like, you guys, like, either they shot and then you guys were aware of the presence, or you shot them, but it wasn't like you had to re-engage twice. It's like when you guys fired, you guys hit what you aimed at. So it was like, so there was no like long back and forth between, exchanging gunfire. It was someone triggered the fight, and then all of a sudden you answered, and then that was it. You don't have to answer again. It's like moving on.
Yeah.
Next,
but there was always another fight. Or another 2.
There was always another
3.
fight.
That was scary ground.
You guys prevented the flank too, because it was a squad coming down out of the BTR that was going to flank, and you guys set up to receive that while half your element moved, which I thought was great. I'm like, immediately when you guys did that, you're like, I go take a high position. I'm like, man, this ain't gonna work. these guys are ready for it, and sure as shit, these guys come bebopping down the street, and
go team.
Machine gun shreds the whole squad.
I don't think I don't think I shot anyone really, apart from the people in the supermarket and the
dude in the hallway.
yeah. And that's it.
Only
I think that's the only time I ever shot really.
You're the medic. I mean, if the medic gets shot, who fixes him?
True. Right. If there's nothing else, we can wrap up.
Heck yeah.
Good game.
Mike.
Try it out.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Yeah, I do recommend it. Maybe wait a bit before you play it. Maybe wait for this all to be over with.
Maybe
don't.
Don't
Maybe do the Sweden module.
Don't homebrew it in Ukraine. Don't,
Yeah. Ugh.
Put it in America. Set it in America.
Yeah.
We
play our games at the table because that's where conflict should be and not out in the real world.
I do hope to see, like, when they release like expansion books and shit, that they start, rather than it being mainly American and Russian, I hope they start bringing in other parts of NATO so that so that you can be like, I want to be, I went for a British soldier and I could have that gun that they all fucking hate. What's their standard
L7A1
rifle they use?
The
What's the standard-
LE-86.
No,
Is
that's
that
it.
what it's called? They
Yeah,
fucking
the
hate it
Minefield 86.
and they still
Yeah,
hate
the
it.
pop-up.
One of
Yeah.
my friends has just joined he finished his basic training in military, and they were like, "Yeah, we still hate the gun."
Yeah, it's mostly plastic and it's difficult and it's a bullpup, which is a pain in the ass anyway.
But yeah, hopefully we'll see more stuff for it. And like I said, hopefully next week or at some point we'll have a interview with one of the creators of the game. We'll have to see about that. And then also next Sunday we start Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory, which is the new 40k roleplay. When I say new, it's about 2 years old, but it's been revised already because I don't know, the original publisher lost the rights to it, and then Cubicle 7 took over. So we'll see how that works. And that will be the next 8 weeks of gameplay. So if you're it's going to actually be 10 weeks because there's some bank holidays, and then those bank holidays I'm working at a nightclub and I need the money. No offense, it's 40 odd extra quid for that one extra night, so I got to do it really.
Deeply offended, James.
Well, I'm glad. But yeah, thank you all for playing. Especially thank you, Nathan, for running it. It does help when someone runs a game because then I'm not having to do about 50 different things at once.
Which is what you're going to be doing next week.
Which I'm going to be doing next
week. And my offer to run some Blaze in the Dark later in the year still stands.
All right, I've got. It will be like I'll probably put things to the vote like I did with like the next 3 games is all done by voting, but it will be put out as a vote. But that's really about it. Does anyone have anything to shout out at all before we wrap up?
Watch your 6. Take care of your buddy.
Do you know what I fucking forgot to say? Like and subscribe. Bollocks.
Whatever. They don't know
Pretty
that.
sure they know how to do that.
Yeah, they don't. Tune in next
Thanks
week.
for watching.
Tune in next week. We get to see me play instead of GM, and me and my buddy, one of my best friends in the world, we get to play Fanatics for the Emperor.
Oh, God. I'll watch for sure.
But yeah, other than that, don't forget to join the Discord if you haven't done so already, because that's the best place to find everyone that's been in these games so far. If you're interested in signing up to a game, do consider it. It does help if you are subscribed to Twitch or supporting on Patreon. It does put you further in the rankings, if that makes any sense. But yeah, other than that, thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Peace out.
Bye.